Welcome to What Could Go Right, a podcast about living boldly on and off the water. I'm Eric Orton.
I'm Emily Orton. On this podcast, we explore adventure, connection, and stepping into a more intentional life. And we don't just talk about it. We invite you to join us on guided sailing trips around the world.
And if you stick around to the end, you'll hear our sailing update where we share where we're going, when, and which trips still have space. And you'll hear a sailing takeaway from somebody who's already come on a trip with us. In 2014, we bootstrapped a year on a fixer-upper sailboat with our 5 kids. We wrote a book about it called 7 at Sea. That became a New York Times top 10 travel book.
Let's dive in. Today, we're talking about something that might be a little uncomfortable, especially if you're the kind of person who prides yourself on pushing hard, is showing up and doing more than most people. And that's because what if the reason that you are stuck, tired, and not seeing the growth that you expected is not because you're not working hard enough, but because you actually don't know how to rest? Let's dive in. Okay, so there's this idea about kind of the push, push, push. We've talked about it a few different times. And then we had recently done an interview with our friend Gaina Lynn, who was like, I'm in a season of unexpected stillness. Like I've been pushing and pushing and nothing is catching. And I'm just here now learning how to make sourdough, which brought a lot of its own beautiful lessons. And we can link to that. But what if it's not all about push? The growth isn't just like grow, 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 but that the magic is in the resting seasons.
Well, as you know, I'm fond of quoting the Jason Bourne novels, Rest is a Weapon. I think I said it on a recent episode, actually. Can't remember what we were talking about, but just this idea that if you want to be a lethal, effective, covert op, special agent, you need to take a nap every now and then, or you at least need to get a good night's sleep. And, you know, in that world, I've never been in that world for real. I just watch the movies and read the books, but I'm imagining that you have to sleep as well if you want to be effective. And I think that the same goes true for most of the stuff that most of us do that are probably much lower stakes than that.
And I think about in terms of our navigator framework, we have this framework for moving through change that includes leaving the harbor. It's all sailing based themes and going out a little ways, but then it also includes coming back and reflecting and thinking about what you learned. And then that expands your ability to extend yourself further the next time. It actually expands your comfort zone. Your comfort zone keeps getting a little bigger and bigger. So you never actually have to travel too far outside of your comfort zone, but your comfort zone keeps getting bigger. So you're traveling into these new places. And then you can, and when I say comfort zone, I'm meaning that's going to be like an area of rest that feels comfortable, that feels easy, that are rhythms that you know what you're doing. So here's like a sailing metaphor for pushing all the time. And that is, you're going to like say you're going in this certain direction. You're not just going to keep pulling your sails, trimming your sails tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. That's not going to be what helps you get where you need to go. You're going to have to adjust with the ebb and flow of the wind as it shifts directions. And sometimes you want to keep it out and you just want it trimmed to the right amount of tightness. Otherwise, like, why have your sails up at all?
I'm trying to remember the name of this sailing movie, and maybe you can help me. It's this guy is in a race. It's a race around the world, and you leave from England, I think, and you sail down the coast of Brazil and then kind of around the world, you know, like crossing.
I think you
Cape
watched
Horn.
this one without me, but
Okay.
I know what you're talking about.
Anyway, this guy had, and it's a solo race. And the rule is that you can't have anybody else on board and you can't go ashore. You have to stay in the water at all times. And anyway, this guy something breaks and he has to kind of pull off and make a repair before he can keep going. So he gets to Brazil and he pulls into this anchorage, drops anchor, does the work that he needs to do, and then sets sail again. And the whole movie is about the fact that while he stops to do repairs, this Brazilian kid who wants to get out of Brazil sneaks onto his boat.
Oh,
and so anyway, and that's kind of the whole movie. But the line that I think from this it's coming to my mind is because this guy is sailing solo, and so he has a support team, and he's on the radio to them and checking in with them, and they're kind of giving him updates about where he is in relationship to everybody else. And they're always asking him how he's doing. Is he getting enough rest? Is he getting enough food? You know, what's his health like? Because those are all big factors in whether you win this race or not. And the coach, who's just kind of coming in over the radio, is kind of laying into this guy, the captain, the solo sailor, and he's like, because he doesn't think he's taking really good care of himself. And he's like, look, a sailor sleeps before he's tired. He eats before he gets hungry. He rests before he gets sick. And I just thought, that's so good that you sleep before you're tired, you eat before you're hungry, and you recover or you rest before you get sick. And the stowaway kid was making all this very complicated for this guy to do all these things. And so he was really off of his rhythm. But I just thought, what great advice to just be preemptive about it and to take a vacation before you have a breakdown.
Yeah.
Take a nap before you fall asleep in a meeting. Whatever it is, just get ahead of it.
Yeah, I love it. And life is never going to be stress-free. And I think while we can all imagine some of the burdens weighing on us now that we wish weren't there, we wouldn't actually wish for a stress-free life. I mean, that's why we're out climbing cliffs and hiking mountains and, learning to surf and stuff like that, because we actually do want a challenge. Right. We do like that. So I'm not saying, hey, follow us for more tips on how to avoid all stress in your life and live like a slug. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying, like, it can be very easy and very understandable given the puzzles that all of us are working on in our own lives, that we think, oh, if I just push a little harder, then I'll crack the code on this, and then that won't be an issue for me anymore. And sometimes it's actually, to crack the code, sometimes it's actually a good idea to go take a nap or take a break or allow your brain to function in a little bit of a different way, come out of keen focus mode. And, why do all these ideas come when you're in the shower or driving the car? It's because you're relaxed. So it's just that idea of just being, let's be honest, we all have stress. That's going to be important. We're not saying no stress, but how do we manage it and get to the solutions?
Can I go one step further?
Yeah.
That I think there's always going to be a certain amount of stress. I think the better we get at life, the more we are able to manage that. And I actually think the more we up our skills in terms of dealing with uncertainty, our stress levels go down, because we're just confident that the more and more things that might come our way, we're confident we're going to be able to deal with it.
Mm.
I would say that it's actually important to choose to put yourself in stressful situations. First of all, it's I don't know if I'm ready to say that it's fun, but by opting in for the stress, you get to choose what the activity is, first of all. And you rattled off
Yeah.
a few of my favorites. And I guess this is making me think of something that I shared on my Instagram story, which was reposting a reel. And it says, if POV, if you've got problems, you should go multi-pitch climbing at night. You won't think about anything else. And so I think getting yourself in a situation where you have bigger, more immediate problems than the problems that you think are really important is one way of dealing with them. And I guess I'm thinking of it because our daughter, Sarah Jane's like, hey, I really thought that was funny. Or no, it was Karina. She's like, somebody in my life, I wish they would go do something like that because I think it would serve them well. And for those of you that don't know what multi-pitch climbing is, it's basically multiple rope lengths, hundreds of feet of climbing. And if you do it at night, one of the things that I often tell Emily that I love about rock climbing is that it pushes out any other issues, any other concerns that I might have, because I have to be completely present. I have to be paying attention for my safety and well-being and any of my climbing partners. And so if I'm worried about money or cash flow or one of our kids' relationships or whatever it might be, those things are forced out by opting to bring in something that's more immediate, more demanding. And then it's over. We walk out, I change my shoes, I pop a few peanut M&Ms in my mouth, we talk in the parking lot with my climbing buddies, and then we drive home and I'm back at my desk and those same issues are still there or in my, wherever. But for a moment, it's like a cleanse.
Yeah, it was a break from carrying them. So, like, if you've ever done weightlifting, it's like time under tension is what builds muscle, right? And if you like, oh, I'm gonna bend my knees now and get out of this, position, whatever, you get a little rest. And that's saying, like, hey, I'm just gonna, like, for a few hours, I'm gonna set down these concerns, and that is going to feel restful. So I love that. Okay, so what is even meant by rest? Because I know I said taking a nap, that's one.
I took a nap yesterday.
But there are other things. Like, your mom used to always say, a change is as good as a rest. And it was for that very reason. I think it's just like, I'm going to shift and do this other thing now. And I actually experienced that when I was training for a marathon. I was training in New York City, not to run it, the New York Marathon, but I had a path that did not have a lot of hills. And so the same muscles were getting stressed over and over and over again. So then when we came into the hilly section, it was actually kind of a relief because that meant I was now going to rely on different muscles or from different angles, and it would be parts of the muscle that were fresh. And it can be hard to run uphill, but after you've already run 10 miles flat, it's kind of nice to get a change in there. It rested some of the muscles and got to use some of the ones that hadn't been worked.
It reminds me of at the end of a lot of these bigger climbs that I do, I inevitably just feel wasted physically at the very end, and walking out with all of my gear on my back, and it's usually downhill, is really hard for me.
Mm-hmm.
Probably because I don't condition as well as I ought to. But kind of like what you're talking about running, I'll literally, instead of like walking downhill down the trail, I'll turn around and I'll walk backwards because it kind of like taps into a whole new set of muscles that are going largely unused at this phase of the project or the climb. And so just by tapping into using some different muscles, we can let the ones that are getting really overworked take a break. And it
Yeah.
doesn't mean we stop exerting, but we're just switching. Like if you're doing everything with your right hand, stop doing it with your right hand and do it with your left hand. Or if you're doing everything that's upper body, do it lower body, or vice versa. Or if you're doing everything with your brain, do something with your body.
If you're doing everything with your body, switch to your brain. Actually, our daughter just sent a thing that said, if you work with your brain, rest with your hands. If you work with your hands, rest with your brain. And it's that same concept.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. Have you ever had a moment where stepping away actually made you better at something or gave you clarity that you couldn't really find while pushing? You can think about it for a
Hmm.
second. I definitely have. A lot of times I might start feeling a lot of pressure or feeling like something is really urgent or that it needs to be solved right now or that it's not going to get solved in time. I start to get anxious. And then if I eat lunch or take a break, take a walk, then suddenly I come at it like a new person. Like, hey, I took care of my body and now I see things differently. And I'm probably not going to put a link. You can take my word for it or not. But I had heard this study that if you're going before a judge and you're going to be sentenced for something, like if you're late in the morning, you're getting a harsher sentence. You come in after lunch, you're getting a more lenient sentence. And it's not because the judge's, knowledge of the law has shifted. It's just that they are hungry. And when they are fed, they just have a better outlook, a more optimistic outlook on life. And I
They're
think,
more lenient.
yeah, it's true for me as well. I'm like, hey, no, I'm taking care of myself. So it's good. I can help you.
So if there's one takeaway from this podcast, if you commit a crime and you go to trial, strategize with your attorney and get an afternoon spot.
Yeah, get the first spot after lunch. That's where you want to be.
Yeah.
This is like practical.
Yeah, we want you to give you guys some
tips.
practical takeaways for managing your life. So there you go. You're welcome.
Yeah, hopefully you don't have to go to court, but think about how you interact with people, right? Hey, I have even when I go grocery shopping, it's like take a protein bar with me or eat before I go because I make different decisions when I'm cared for than when I'm just stressed.
Well, that's a great example that I think everybody's heard before. Don't shop hungry.
Mhm.
Like eat and then go shopping because you're going to just put different things in your cart and anyway, yeah, take a nap, sleep before you get tired, eat before you get hungry, rest before you get sick.
And eat before you go shopping and eat before you go to court, before you judge.
Feed the judge.
Feed the judge. Buy the judge lunch.
Even better, buy the judge lunch.
I think that might not be allowed.
You know what? Hey, as long as you kind of wink and slip the bailiff $50, you'll be fine. Yeah.
Okay, there's another one I want to ask. We talked about this a little bit on our morning walk as well. The difference between fake rest and real rest. So, like we said, it's not always a nap. It might be a change. For you, you talked about it being a time when all of those mental stressors could be set aside. In your example, you use your body as relaxation from your brain. Although your brain is working real hard when you're figuring out where am I going to put my feet, my hands, what are my next 10 moves,
But I'm not looking at
different
my
parts.
laptop and I'm not like thinking about word choice or yeah, it's
Yeah.
not computer based, that's for sure.
Yeah. What does fake rest look like versus real rest? Or rather, like, what are some examples of things that are truly restful?
I know the best example of fake rest, sleeping on a plane. That is not real sleep.
That's not real rest.
Unless you're like Delta 360 with a lay down bed in the front of the plane, it is not real rest. That is
Mm.
fake rest. That's the best example I can think of.
Yeah. When you've been like head down on a tray table for however many hours, and then you're like, all I want to do is go to sleep.
I can't even do that. Like you're small enough
I'm
that you can
smaller.
fit.
I'm smaller.
I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm like,
I'm like doing yoga in my seat,
the best I can hope for is 2 empty seats next to me and I can lay out, and that's the closest I come to real rest on a plane.
but it's not real. It's
But it's
fake.
still not.
It's
It's
not
still
real.
fake. So, what do you mean when you say fake rest? I mean, like,
Stuff that you do, maybe it's like not your work, but it's also not recharging you.
okay, I'll say this. I think a lot of people, when they go on vacation, they're actually fake resting.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is people will say, like, going to a resort and just sitting by the pool or going to the beach and just sitting in a lounge chair with an umbrella, it can be relaxing. But maybe it's just the kind of people that we take sailing, but most of them just say, that is not rejuvenating for me. I know we've got, your Uncle Steve, he goes to the same place in
Oh,
Maui every year.
we have lots of friends
And,
who do this and do find it restful.
and do. So I think what's true rest for you may be different than what's true rest for somebody else. But I know that there's a lot of people that I interact with that doing things that in a magazine look restful are not. It's not
It
restful.
might be actually just boring.
Yeah, it's usually boring. And it's more restful to be, like they like our sailing trips because like they're learning, they're engaged.
They're
It's
playing.
a change.
Yeah.
And there's still plenty of swimming and play and sunshine. Being engaged is part of the rest for them. That it's not just passive and trying to check out. Like, I don't think playing video games is particularly restful. Some people, but actually,
It sounds like it might be different for everyone. So how will you tell?
actually, I will retract that statement because sometimes when I'm really stressed, I'll literally pull out my phone and I'll play solitaire or I'll literally play Candy Crush or some version of that. And it's just like, I'm just going to get my brain away from everything else that I've been worrying about. And I'm going to do it for 5 or 10 minutes and it helps me reset.
Or you'll do a puzzle, like an actual analog
Cardboard.
cardboard cutout puzzle.
Yeah. Anyway, I think rest does not mean going comatose, I guess is what I'm saying. It doesn't mean just lounging. It can. I took a nap in a hammock yesterday. It was pretty great. It was restful.
Better than an airplane.
But then I was ready to go for a walk.
Yeah.
And so I think all those things can be restful.
Some things I find restful are actually journaling, which might sound strange because I carry all of this stuff in my head and all of these questions. And when I will write them out, then I don't feel that burden to carry them around anymore. So that's a restful activity for me. Taking a hot bath or a hot shower, that feels restful. And I think part of it is because I'm just putting myself in a completely different environment. And it's kind of like going swimming, or it doesn't take a lot of effort like climbing a rock, but it's just like, hey, I'm closing the doors on the rest of my life right now. And that's something that's really restful to me. Sometimes doing little crafts like making a little project or painting or cleaning. I know cleaning might not always sound restful, and it isn't always, but when it doesn't have to be done and I'm just sort of puttering around without a deadline, that feels really restful. Being with friends, getting together for fun conversations or game nights or hiking with friends, all of that feels really restful. And sometimes it's because I'm hearing new stories. Sometimes it's because I get to unburden my own heart. But it's just, that might be one that fits into the category of a change being as good as a rest.
Well, as you're talking, 2 ideas come to me. One thing that I think is really restful is we'll watch a comedy show or listen to a comedy, like while we're driving, we'll listen to somebody's stand-up comedy routine. And so I think finding ways to laugh, I would say in general. But comedians are great. That's the service they provide, is they help us laugh and they help us laugh at ourselves. And also a lot of times they're very insightful. And so I think comedy is is a huge way to rest because laughter is so good for our bodies and our minds. So, hit up your favorite comedian. And the other thing is, now that the season is turning, I like getting out either in the morning before I get to my desk or at the end of the day, before we have dinner or even after dinner. I'll get outside and I'll just putter in the yard and pull weeds for 20 minutes or go edge the driveway or the sidewalk. And, just 15, 30 minutes of that is really good for me, I think.
Mhm.
And I'm grateful for this new season. And not only does it make the house and the yard look better, which is part of it, but also it's a complete change. It's a complete change from what I've been doing at my desk or on calls or even this. It's different than, being in front of a microphone. So I think the great thing is that there can be as many ways to rest as there are people.
Yeah, variety. So come to know yourself. Figure out, just think to yourself, what are some of the things that really allow you to relax and recharge? Maybe play, maybe set aside your burdens and just giving yourself a break, whether it's for a few minutes or for a few days, can help you come back reignited and full of energy and ready to get back at some of those, strengthen you for some of those burdens you're carrying. And in fact, I'll give this metaphor since we talked about weightlifting earlier. The resting time in between is really important to the strengthening process. It is partly time under tension with the burden you're carrying, but it's also then time without any tension where your body can do the repair work. And it's in the repair that we find the strength.
It's actually where you build your muscle, right?
That's where you build your muscle, is when you're resting. So we did not plan to come to that conclusion.
Get pumped, get swole.
Anyway, we hope that you will have lots of ideas sparking about what is rejuvenating and recharging for you, and that you will give yourself permission to rest, recognizing that it's fun and it's good for you.
Hey, what could be better than that?
Yep. And what could go right?
Hey there, before we wrap up, I want to give you the sailing update. We're going to tell you what's going on with 2027. And then at the end, I'll give you a few updates on what's happening this year if you want to jump on a trip. Basically, 2027, we're going to go to the BVI in January. We're mostly sold out. We have a cabin for 2 people. In March, we're going to be in the Bahamas, Exumas or the Abacos. So stay tuned for that. April, we'll be in Mexico, Sea of Cortez. May, we're going to be in Bora Bora. So if you want to fly to Tahiti, French Polynesia, and sail Bora Bora, we're going to be going there for the first time in a long, long time. So that's going to be a fun trip. June, we're in Italy. July, we're in Greece. August, we're in Croatia. September, we're in Italy. We're going to go to a second trip to Greece in September as well. And then November of 2027, we're back in the British Virgin Islands. And December, we're in the Bahamas again. So that's the lowdown for 2027. If you want to come sailing with us this year, here's what we have. A Croatia boat, August 1 through 8, sold out. Then in Norway, September 3rd through the 10th, we have 1 spot left for 2 people. So that's going to be September 3rd through 10. It's going to be an epic trip. I'm super excited about that one. Italy in September, we have a spot for 1 solo female traveler. Mexico in October is sold out. Bahamas, November 9th through the 14th is sold out. And then in December 7th through 12th, British Virgin Islands is sold out. If you want to learn more about any of these trips or get the details, visit theawesomefactory.nyc/sailing. Click to sign up for a time to talk with our team, with me, and we'll get your questions answered and hopefully welcome you aboard.
We can talk about trips all day, but it's more fun to hear from someone who's been aboard. Here's a recent guest takeaway.
I love boating, and we've probably been talking for at least 3 years, maybe 4, about the Greek Isles and doing something here. We got to go on a Mediterranean cruise last year, 2 years ago, and we loved it and wanted more of it. And I think it was Heidi who said, let's see when Eric's going to do a Greek Isles trip. And I think we tried. I think you were doing one last year that didn't work out with our schedule, and so we were on a mission. So we saw it this year and thought we should do that, and we invited all of our good friends, and only 2 of them came. But then we found new friends that filled the boat. So so that I was worried about getting here. Long flights. That's not a great thing for my wife. She has some pains that act up when you're in one position too long, so I was worried about that. I was worried about getting sick. I get sick easy, and so I was a little concerned about that, but I think those are my two worries.
We made it.
We made it.
I didn't see you throw up one time.
I did not throw up one time. The places we saw were amazing. Some of God's greatest creations, but I really felt like the greatest creations that we all got to see on this was each other, and just getting to know new people and sharing thoughts and hearing their thoughts and just coming together, and that was amazing. A second thing, I've captained a big boat for a lot of years, and I tend to be the one that is always in charge and trying to fix stuff and all of this, and I was pleasantly surprised how competent everybody was to do everything. And I know that I stepped on some people's toes when I thought they could do something faster. and I knew that the wind was blowing us, and if we didn't get that line pulled tight quickly, we were going to be too close to the other boat, and I should have. I think I did a pretty good job at not trying to do all the things that I normally do, but I still did a little, so I'm sorry. But everybody was amazing. Everybody did their job and did it well, and it was a lot of fun.
Somebody you knew was thinking about coming. What would you say to him?
Hell yes. There's so many reasons to do something like this. Lenny talked about how it'll strengthen your relationship. It'll make you a better person. It'll get you out of your comfort zone. It'll be just an amazing growth experience. And then just the places we went to were just like, we walk around that corner into Hydra, and it's like, is this real? This is AI, right? This is, Eric created this.
There's a green screen behind.
Yeah.
I mean, hundreds of actors.
There's no way.
I'll wake up and we're gonna be okay.
Yeah. It was incredible. So yes, do it. You won't regret it.